Hello and welcome to lesson 12-5 on scatter plots. In tonight's lesson, you're going to be able to interpret and draw scatter plots, and you're also going to be able to use scatter plots to find trends. So let's go ahead and get started. When we talk about scatter plots, this is another type of graph that we use that shows the relationship between two sets of data. So there's two things happening, or two variables. For example, I have this one here that tells us, well, we're looking at the hours of study, so how many hours you study versus their test scores. And you notice a few certain things here. For example, if you study only 5 hours, it looks like you scored between 50 and 60%. However, if you study 30 hours, it looks like that person scored at least an 89%. So it's just looking at trends between the data. And we're going to go ahead and find out certain things, or what type of trends there are in a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started first on interpreting scatter plots. So here, this scatter plot shows the average number of books read monthly by students in their grade in English. So we need to answer the following questions based off this graph. So number 1 says, what do you know about the student at point A? So if we find point A here, what you end up doing is look at the ordered pair or where it lines up. So it lines up to here, to here. All right, so we can know, well, this student read 2 books per month and scored, it looks like an 80 in English. And I got all that by just looking at the data and where it would line up. So then number 2, how many students read 3 books per month? So here we're looking at books per month, so around the x-axis, and I find 3. So looking up, it looks like it was 3 students. There we go. So it's pretty easy to interpret these graphs once you get started. All right, so how do we draw? And this one, it says, use the table below to make a scatter plot of the elevation and precipitation data. So a lot of the times they're going to start you with a table. And you need to be careful to make sure you find out what you're supposed to plot. Here it talks about elevation. So this column in feet to precipitation. So their annual precipitation in a year. All right, so those are the 2 orders I'm going to use. And a lot of times, whatever one comes first on the graph, so here, elevation, you're going to plot on the x-axis. Well, the annual precipitation came next, so that's going to be on y. So how to make a scatter plot? I have it listed here. First, number 1, draw the lines. Well, you'll notice I already have lines started for myself. But when you do these for your homework, a lot of the times you're going to have to make these lines. 2, decide on a scale. Well, we already said that below here is going to be elevation in feet, and here is going to be precipitation in inches. All right, so looking at this, I need to figure out what to use. All right, and I'll notice that my graph in my ambient starts at 11, well, it goes all the way into the thousands. So I'm going to want to keep that in mind when I do my graph. All right, so I'm probably going to do, let's see, I'm going to probably do hundreds. This graph is not going to be the prettiest, but I think it's probably going to give us the general idea. All right. And then really I should have it over a little bit more. Let's see if I can, nope, my dad. Oh, everything's moving on me. I'm getting it though. There, all right, good enough. So now if I continue this on, there's 10,050, good. All right, and now I have to do the same for the sides, and taking a look, it looks like it goes all the way from 8 to 56. So here, I might just go by tens. 40, 50, 60. There we go. So I have all this information. Now it says Well, I can give it a title right away. And looking here, it's elevation. Wow. Elevation versus precipitation in cities. Alright, and you'll notice I usually like to give it a title before I start plotting my ordered pairs, because when I'm done ordering my pairs, doing the ordered pairs, the next thing I want to do is just go to the next problem. So if I make sure I do the title, I'll make sure I get that in and I don't lose any points for my homework. There we go. Now we have to plot the ordered pairs. Now to do this, we're going to look at our table. Alright, and again, you just take the information they give you. In Atlanta, well, if the elevation is 1,050, the precipitation is 51. In Boston, it's 20 and 42. Chicago is 596 feet for elevation and 36 inches of precipitation. In Honolulu, elevation is 18 versus 22. Miami, it's 11 and 56. And in Phoenix, their elevation is 1,072 feet, and they get 8 inches of precipitation per year. So I just grabbed that right from the table. Again, I took the X or whatever came first, and then the one that came next to it as the Y. Alright, so here we go. I start plotting those points. So 1,050 and 51, so that's about there. 20 and 42, so that's going to be very close, but it'll be right there. 596 and 36, so I'm close to the 600. And let's see, I'm going up to 36, which will be about there. Let's see, then I have 18 and 22. All right, so 18, 22 will be right about there. 11 and 56 will be about here. And let's see, 1,072 and 8 will be right about here. Maybe a little lower than that. There we go. So there's my scatter plot. I have my data scattered or plotted on my graph. And sometimes, if I had more information, it'd be a little bit easier to tell what's going on. Because right now, it just looks like a whole bunch of points plotted on there. And that's what it's supposed to look like. All right? So that's that one. Now, when we do these, there's something you can look at, and that's the correlation. That's, again, looking at the trend. So once you're finished plotting all those points, you can determine what type of correlation is it. There's 3. There's positive, negative, and no correlation. When we talk about positive correlation, it talks as one set of values increases, so does the other. So if one is getting bigger and the other one's getting bigger, it's going to look something like this. One is increasing, this one is increasing. When that happens, it's considered a positive correlation. Now, negative correlation, as one increases, the other one actually decreases. So if I have my point, this is increasing, but this is decreasing, it'll look something like this. So it'll go downwards with negative correlation. Now, no correlation here. All right, so you have your numbers, but your point is considered all over the place. They're not going really up, they're not really going down. It's just scattered. If this is the case, then it's considered no correlation. So, for example, we can look back. On this one, well, it doesn't seem to have much correlation whatsoever with these points. So I'd say at this point, it's no correlation. All right? So, look at that. They want us to go ahead and determine each situation. So again, I can give you a couple seconds to do this. Do these 3 here, so the 3 with the red dots, and then do this situation. That one with the English grade and the books read per month. Is that going to be positive, negative, or no correlation? So go ahead and do that, and when you're all done, come back and check your answer. So pause me now. All right, so on this one, it looks like as one increases the other one. So this one is positive correlation. This one, they're all over the place. There's really no trend going on, so it's no correlation. And this one, it looks like it's going downward, so it's negative correlation. All right, and then we have this English one. And if I'm taking a look, it looks like for the most part, as the more books you read,
it looks like your English grade goes up. So as one increases, so does the other. So this would be considered positive correlation. All right.
So that was your lesson for tonight. I hope you have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.